barking at? It's FedEx. Hey, it's FedEx. Hey there. Jeremy? Oh, you're muted. That's okay. You are our first guest. We're probably going to start just about at 5:30.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. For some reason, it was trying to point at a mic that isn't plugged into this computer. So.
Yeah, stuff like that. So during the presentation, I'm going to ask our guest to be on mute.
Yeah.
And if you want to.
Oh, hello? I'm not hearing you.
Oh,
there we go. There we go. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, I can definitely hear you. I
Okay,
can
awesome.
definitely. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. There was another gentleman here, and then as soon as you popped, he disappeared right as
Oh,
soon as
no.
you popped in.
Okay.
So,
Hey, now we're back.
Hi.
oh, there we go.
Is that Elliot?
Yeah. Yeah, this is Eric over here.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric. Good to meet you. My name's Elliot.
From some of our SCORE meetings.
I'm sorry, it cut out. What did you say?
I said, I think I recognized you from some of our SCORE meetings.
Oh, yeah, I'm actually in the Piedmont Triad chapter.
Ah,
Yeah. And
you know what I read today?
what's that?
The government's going to shut down the SBA office in Greensboro.
Yeah, I just heard that news the other day. Yeah, it's like it's in the Nussbaum Center for small business and yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate.
So we have our first guest here, and I told Jeremy to just mute himself, and we'll wait for everybody else to arrive.
Okay, super. And we're gonna
the
kick
library
off.
portion tonight. So,
Sorry, Jeremy, go for it.
I'm here for the library portion tonight.
Absolutely.
You're our library representative. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Jeremy, the when I watched last month's training, the way it was kind of you went at the end, and I just wanted to check in and see. I know you're probably at the library still. Does that work for you? Is there anything you would prefer?
Yeah, last time I did one of these, there was a bit of a miscommunication. The presenter thought he could go until 7:30, and if I start presenting at 7:30, I'm going to be late getting out of the building, which I have to be out of. So if I could, just start by 7:10ish. I want them to be. You want you to be able to say everything you need to say, obviously.
Yeah, I think I can get it so that you can start significantly earlier than that.
I
In
don't.
fact,
I don't need a huge amount of time, but like
What
7:10ish around in there is wonderful if you can.
okay,
so
you got it. I think we should hit earlier than that. And
I have us down for an hour.
Okay.
I'm sorry, one more
So
time, Eric. What did you say?
yeah, I have simple steps tonight for 1 hour. Is that what you have?
Yeah, I mean, the presentation itself, like as Jeremy was saying, last month the presenter kind of went for like 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah. Well,
It,
that's why I'm here.
yeah. So I think, I think it's like more just from doing a run through, it's like more an hour, um, from what I went through, and then Jeremy can share these really fantastic resources.
Yeah, sounds
Um,
good.
yeah, and Eric, I really want to try to get as many questions as we can, from people, with an eye to time. But do you sort of plan on monitoring the chat for questions?
So what I thought is just before you begin, I'll say that if you want to ask a question, type it into chat. Would
Great.
that be okay?
Yeah, that's super. That's
All right.
absolutely perfect.
And
Yeah.
and then and then it'll be up to you as to when you want to break away and look at those chat questions.
Okay, super.
All
Fantastic.
right? Let's try
Excellent.
that out.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Do we have a number of how many people registered?
I wasn't provided with that. I know that um, our friend, the organizer, whose name
Yeah.
I'm, yeah, she
Yeah.
she she probably knows.
One other thing, Elliot. This morning I got a message from our chapter chairperson, Jim Ciccarello,
Okay,
saying that one of the mentors, like me, wants to learn about moderating simple steps, so he might join us tonight as a panelist. His name is Peter.
fantastic,
So if he joins or not, we'll find out.
excellent.
Just FYI, it won't let me screen share at the moment.
Yeah, we
Need
need
Cody up.
to change your. Let's see if we can. Thanks for calling that out, Jeremy. Yeah, it's good to make this work before we get going.
I've been bitten by that before on both ends. I've forgotten to make somebody co-host, and I've forgotten to ask to be made co-host. So
Yeah.
I try to check.
Okay. Uh, check it now, Jeremy.
It's showing me co-host. Yeah, it's giving me the window.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And we are recording too.
Hmm.
All right. I guess we'll have to wait for people to show up.
great.
Look, there's one person in the waiting room already.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't see where the waiting room is.
If you go to participants down in the toolbar, then we three are all listed as panelists, and then there's one person in attendees.
Oh yeah, attendees. Um, how does he get in?
When you all are ready, oh, this is set up as a webinar. Okay. So looks like Miss Allison can see us right now. We just can't hear from her. Um, Depending on how you want to run things, I've been in
Yeah.
some where they just promote everybody to panelists so that everybody can talk. And then other times they leave the attendees in the attendee room.
How did you work it before, Elliot?
Well, last month was the first time that I saw it. So Jeremy's had actually, it sounds like
Yeah.
a lot more. Jeremy, any reflections on what worked better from your perspective?
Um, it really just depends on your presentation style. If you like people to be able to unmute and interject questions, and you like to see people on the screen, then promote the attendees to panelists so that they can actually speak in the webinar. If you like to just present straight through and then address questions in the chat afterwards, leave everyone as an attendee.
So if we left Allison as it is, she can hear. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah,
And
she
she'll
should.
be able
Miss Allen
to see
should
the
be able to
stack.
drop. Yeah, you should be able to drop things in chat. But we just can't
Okay.
hear from her except through the chat.
What do you think, Elliot?
I think it's nice to see faces, and for people to see each other. And I think, you know, we don't sometimes Jeremy, maybe you were just speaking to this. Sometimes you run into a situation where people are unmuting, and so we don't want that situation. Um, but Jeremy, I think you were saying that that's not the case, or
It hasn't been much of a problem in the ones I've been in so far. Usually people are pretty good about keeping themselves muted when they're not actually needing to speak.
okay.
Of course, there's always a first time for everything, but
Well, what I can do then, on per Jeremy's instructions, I can change Allison to a panelist so that we'll see her. Is that right,
Mhm.
Jeremy?
That's what they've usually done in the past. But again, it's up to you how you feel most comfortable with it.
Well, let's try it, okay, Elliot?
Let's try it.
I don't see anything.
Um, you should be able to hover over her name, and I'm on the web interface, but on mine it's under the More
Yeah,
button. There's Promote to Panelist.
I clicked that and nothing's happening.
Oh,
How about allow to
oh, here we
talk?
go. Here we go.
There she is. Allison.
It can take it a moment sometimes.
Oh, yeah. So I don't see or hear from her.
No, oh, looks like video's coming
There she
on.
is. Hey, Allison.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Hi, folks.
Good. Hey, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to have everybody on mute, and then during the presentation, Allison, if you have a question, just type it in the chat, and Elliot will pick it up when he feels convenient to.
Sounds good.
Okay. I hope there are more than you, Allison.
If not, we'll have a good time.
Two more people,
Yeah.
three more people just joined. So
Ah,
I'll
there we go.
promote them to panelists.
All right. There's Philip. And there's
Hello.
Jose.
Hello.
Hello, Jose.
No, this is Philip.
Philip, hello.
Yes. Hello.
So you can turn your video on or not. I ask that everybody mute, and that if you have a question during the presentation, just type it in the chat, and our presenter, Elliot, will pick it up when he has the space in order to answer your question.
Fair enough.
There we go. Through everybody. Elliot? No,
Yes.
there you are, Jeremy.
Yeah, I've been, as attendees come in, I've been promoting them to panelists. Some people are declining and just staying in attendee view, that's fine if they want.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
what happened? I lost all video and audio.
Oh,
Did you, Elliot?
No, I can see and hear.
Okay, cool. All right. So, shall we start?
Yeah, let's kick it
Okay.
off.
All right. I want to welcome everybody to our session tonight. Simple steps for starting your business. My name is Eric Overcash. I'm a mentor in Charlotte Score. As we go through this slide with the presenter Elliot, if you have a question, please type it into chat, and then Elliot will answer your question at his when he has a space to do that. So, without any further ado, I want to introduce Elliot Owen. He's from the Raleigh Durham Score, and take it away, Elliot.
Great. Thank you, Eric. It's great to be with everyone this evening. Thanks so much for joining. So this is the first course in SCORE's Simple Steps for Starting Your Business course. And the intention for tonight, we'll go over in a second just what we'll cover. But the intention is, as much as possible, to try to address any questions that folks have. So to the extent that we can, we'll try to make this engaging. We're going to spend about an hour and change going over the contents for tonight. And then Jeremy, who is at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, who is on the call, will go over some really fantastic and expensive if you were to access it yourself, resources that are offered free at the library. So there should be a lot that's useful in store tonight. So as we go on tonight, if you have any questions, as Eric said, please write them in the chat, and we'll try to pause at the end of each section to try to answer questions. So just to get started, please write in the chat, your first name, where you're based, and your business or your business idea, or if you're looking for an idea, and anything that you want to learn today, or you're expecting out of this meeting. So just take a second and access the chat function, which is the toolbar at the bottom, and please share that. Okay, welcome Philip from Steel Creek, and Peter, your mentor and education coordinator. All right, so Jonali is looking for a business idea. This is an excellent place to start. We'll talk a little bit about how to assess a market, how to look for business opportunities. And welcome, Catherine. And Philip, you write that you have tech knowledge, just not business experience. Allison writes, you're about to start a small interior design business. You're looking to figure out what it is you don't know. So hopefully some of what we cover can be useful. Excellent. Wonderful. All right. So glad that people found SCORE. SCORE is has the largest network of free volunteer small business mentors in the nation. There are seminars and workshops offered on the website. Um, and all mentoring is offered free. The Charlotte chapter has 50 active mentors, but I'm based in the Piedmont Triad. I'm in Greensboro, and in many cities around North Carolina, there are chapters, and definitely around the nation. Um, there is a tremendous benefit of working with mentors. These are people who have been in business for years. Many are retired executives, managers with all different kinds of specialties, and they are really here to work with you to go from business inception to taking you through, kind of helping you through the steps of developing a business. There are some mentors in our chapter who have worked with clients for years and have seen them through different stages of business development. So, all volunteer work is free, and what we want to see is a developing small business economy. So here are the different chapters in North Carolina, and I just want to take a second to share with people, to show people how easy it is to find a mentor. You can go, for example, this is the Charlotte webpage, score.org/Charlotte, and you can click find a mentor, and you can browse by mentors. You can browse the mentors in the chapter, or what's very useful is if you type in your zip code, this is a form that you can submit your information, what you would like to be mentored in, a brief overview, and there is, essentially a quarterback coordinator at each SCORE chapter who reviews every incoming request and finds the best mentor that they think to work with you. Every mentor has different background, different specialties. This is a really great place to start. You can also browse a mentor and filter in this find a mentor, search for a mentor option, and you can browse by expertise, industry, language. So there are a lot of really great people who are super excited to assist. Okay, so just a kind of overview of the Startup Basics course, the Simple Steps course. Tonight we are in this green box, the Startup Basics, and the idea of it is we are giving an overview of how does a business get created? What is a business? What are things that you should consider? What are the risks and benefits? And this is meant as a 5-part series. The idea is that you take each workshop and before sort of deciding whether to go or no, whether your business is a go or a no-go. And what we're going to provide tonight is an overview, but what this won't be is a step-by-step guide of how to create your business and how to develop a marketing strategy, how to do sales. Um, and, and those are, important things to understand and think about before launching the business. So, um, as I said before, you can go and find a SCORE mentor now. There are no, um, there's no requirements in order to do that. And all of these workshops all have recordings, um, and you can search for this online. Um, Simple steps, 2, simple steps 3. And at the end of this presentation, there is a link that you can go to, which has all of the workshops in this series. So stick around for that. Also, I think Eric mentioned this is recorded. The recording will be sent to you. So if there's something that you miss, don't worry about it. You'll get a link in your email. I believe shortly following the end of this session. Okay, so let's get started. Are we ready to create a business? So, what we're going to go over are the myths and realities of entrepreneurship. What are factors for success? Types of businesses, creating a business, buying an existing business, types of business ownership, um, and and at the end, there is a self-assessment where you can sort of think about these different um, attributes in creating a business and sort of rate yourself where you are today. Okay, so myths and realities. Myth 1, as an entrepreneur, you won't have to work that hard or put in such long hours. And I'm sure you are, thinking that's a little silly. I think we all understand that creating a business involves a lot of work and responsibility. Forgive me, I forgot to give an introduction of myself, so I'll just do that now because this myth 1 brings it to mind. So I started my work in design and product management, and I worked at high-tech companies. um, Design and product management is really about how you get a product market fit, how you study a market, um, study competitors, understand how long it will take to bring a product to market. The last 3 years, I've been working as a consultant with nonprofits, helping them to do a better job in assessing their offerings. So, a nonprofit has a service and they want to understand, is it reaching the people that they intend? Are they, what's succeeding and what's not working well? About in 2015, I created a startup to an online service to match people with mental health providers. And I can attest that myth number 1, um, there was no one else when I created it to keep the foot on the gas. So, it's a lot of responsibility. Um, so myth 2, my product service is unique and there's no competition. Um, it's a little bit the case that um, a number of SCORE mentees that I've encountered think that this is the case. Um, and a reason for that is, um, sometimes when we're thinking about creating a business, we're not necessarily thinking as a customer or consumer. Um, so it's important to remember that a lot of the time, there are other businesses that have similar offerings, and that shouldn't discourage or detract us from starting a business, but just something to keep in mind. Myth 3, business owners can deduct everything, so you won't have to pay taxes. So taxes are based on net income, which can be lowered by subtracting expenses. But there are strict regulations, and it's important to keep good records. So there are benefits to owning a business, and you'll have tax write-offs, but it's important to always separate expenses into a separate a business bank account. A lot often, and we'll get into this, people work with an accountant who can help you maximize your tax advantages. There's a question of whether that's essential at the beginning, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Myth 4, as a business owner, you won't have a boss. That's not true. We serve different stakeholders, mostly our clients and our customers. So while we won't have someone holding us accountable to clocking in at 9 a.m., keeping customers satisfied, they become our bosses in a sense. Myth 5, business owners get to do whatever they want. So they're, as a business owner, you get to wear many hats. We'll talk about that shortly. But it's carrying each hat. It involves responsibility. How do I figure out sales? How do I figure out a marketing plan? So I think that's kind of an easily debunked myth. So let's look briefly at the failure success rates of startups. After 2 years, roughly 76% of businesses, startups are still in business. This seems pretty good. But find that after 5 years, about half of those businesses are no longer in business. And actually, a statistic that is commonly recited in Silicon Valley, I don't know if this holds true across industries, is that about 1 in 10 startups succeed. This isn't meant to be discouraging, but try attempting to sort of level set. So there's 4 main reasons why small businesses fail. The first is a lack of planning, and we'll get into what goes into planning. The second is insufficient capitalization at startup. So you're starting a business and we don't have enough funding in order, for startup costs or operating costs. And we'll talk about that financial planning. The third is a mismanagement of cash flow, and that can be that we are spending money in places we shouldn't. So let's say we are overspending on a marketing campaign, we're overspending on product development. Overspending on product development is, at least in Silicon Valley, a big challenge. And the fourth is improper pricing. So things aren't priced well to the market. Okay. So what are success factors? Knowledge of or experience in field. So I don't know that this should necessarily say education, but it more should say familiarity with the domain, with the market that you're operating in. Having a strong work ethic, effective time management, the ability to manage and multitask, um, and the willingness to ask for and take advice from others. I think that is really important. I think that at least I'll say, from my score mentees, um, I think people are rightfully sort of protective of their vision, which I think is important. I'm determined to create a startup business, um, uh, like in my case, that would address mental health challenges. Um, but you know, to take in advice effectively from mentors, from other entrepreneurs who are in the same field, and adequate capital, like we just mentioned, having enough money to get going. Um, so yeah. Okay, so financial resources. What might we need adequate capital for? And these are, this is a list. Um, so this should be accounted for in the business plan, which we will talk about later. But, a cash flow plan is really about, what are the startup costs? What is ongoing? And what are some potentially unexpected costs that could um, arise? So, until we figure out how much we need, it's very difficult to properly plan to launch the business. Um, so, um, tracking is very important. If there are people on the call here who have already launched the business, to really understand how much spending, um, uh, they're doing by category. Just like we mentioned, how much are we spending on product development versus marketing, et cetera. So the type of business will largely determine the funding required, and businesses generally range from high capitalization to low capitalization. Um, and if we think about high capitalization businesses, it's like manufacturing. I need to set up a factory. I need to buy equipment, restaurants, rent, all of the kitchen facilities, retail, again, real estate, rent, uh, um, service business. So that's like you're doing accounting or you are doing landscaping, consulting. That's, lower capitalization. That's what I'm doing now, which is, um, you know, how I go about finding customers is, reaching out to people. That's very, very low marketing costs. I can work out of a co-working space or my home, so I don't have, some of these requirements that something like a restaurant would have. Take a note that the fourth session in this series will cover these items. This is a focus on financial planning. All of these workshops again have been recorded. You can use the link that's provided at the end of this seminar to find those recordings if you want to move quickly. So, a lot of people who come to SCORE are want to kind of leave their jobs in order to start a business. And, I think an important factor is understanding what your personal financial needs are. So, getting between a 6 to 12 month runway, which means, rent or mortgage, if you carry any debt, um, and childcare, medical care, unexpected, a budget for things that are hard to expect. Um, so um, it is a case. I'm working with a really phenomenal entrepreneur now, who really dove in head first, left his job, but before he joined the SCORE program, and he is running into cash flow issues, um, and has really, kind of eaten through his savings. So that is a difficult position to be in, and something that we can try to de-risk by doing adequate planning. Um, so sources of capital, how do people start up their businesses? Um, personal savings, family and friends, which can be fraught and tricky, to involve family and friends in the success or difficulty of your business. Revenue from the business is definitely um, the most preferable route. So, if I'm able to um, do something called bootstrapping, like um, quickly get into selling without putting a whole lot into upfront costs, that's good. I can get revenue going. But for, like we just went over, for some of these higher capitalization businesses, like manufacturing, like a restaurant, like retail, that's going to be a bit more difficult. Um, Borrowing and loans, um, and credit cards. So credit cards, definitely not recommended. Um, Insanely high interest rates. Um, so loans, this isn't my area of specialty, but there are a lot of resources um, through SCORE, and generally online. Um, it's my understanding that um, banks are reluctant to lend with less than 2 years of revenue and expenses. As imagine kind of being in their position, it presents kind of greater risk if you don't see that a business has consistent or growing revenue. Um, Credit history is something that they will definitely also consider, um, and collateral. Do you own property? Something that the bank can use to sort of take some of the risk out of lending. There is a lending tool offered through the Small Business Administration. It's called SBA Lender Match. Um, it a lot of the mentees that I've worked with who have looked there haven't necessarily found um, matches for their criteria. Um, there are grants for nonprofits, but and there are special programs for women and minority uh, owners. Um, and those programs can be found through the Small Business Administration. So what are the different ways to get a business? You can start a new business. That's what I did. I founded a startup. Um, we can buy a business. We'll talk about that. Buy franchise. There's something called a home-based business, working out of your home to provide a service, an online business, and a nonprofit. So let's talk about each one in a little bit of detail. So starting a new business, these are there's a client that I have who is providing career coaching for students. This is a new business. It's also an online business, so these categories are definitely blurred. Um, and he's starting it anew, and there are no previous associations with his business. He is looking at a market that he thinks is either untapped or not well, um, that people aren't selling to well. But some of the challenges that he and most other score clients I work with have is that there is no customer base to build on. They have to go out, um, do marketing, figure out how to create a marketing plan, do sales. So, if their marketing is successful, then they get, inbound leads, and then they have to sell them. I have a client who is um, a career coach, and um, he meets with people for a free 30-minute session, and then needs to sell them on a package of services. So, that is all part of the sales process. Um, um, and again, like we talked about, banks want to see a track record revenue for loans. So it's harder to get financing. Buying an existing business, and this is, often overlooked. There are definitely um, people that want to sell their business, could be for different reasons. Uh, what I've most often heard is the stress or responsibility of having to wear many hats. It could be the profit margin on the business. Um, it could be because they are retiring or moving. But there are advantages here. Let's say, this is a landscaping business. They will have a list of customers. They will have established Yelp or Google reviews. Um, they can show you, most critically, they can show you their numbers, um, how their revenue was over time, what their expenses were over time. Um, and again, I don't know this to be firsthand. Uh, I don't know this as firsthand knowledge, but it can be easier to obtain financing. I would um, approach that with caution. Um, that is, I think, um, uh, I think that's just worthy of more investigation. So there are risks also. Um, you know, um, has the accounting been done accurately? Are there any hidden debts? Um, uh, there are, um, business buy-sell marketplaces that you can browse. There's one called bizbuysell.com. And it can be interesting, at least if you even if you want to create your own business, just to sort of browse what is being offered as a way of assessing. Buying a franchise. So this is like opening up a Domino's or a Papa John's, McDonald's, UPS store. Um, a franchise is a right granted to an individual or to a group to market the company's goods or services within a certain territory. Um, so, you say to McDonald's, I want to have this particular area. Um, there are advantages and disadvantages here. Again, it's a business in a box. So The advantage there is they have marketing strategies, all of the branding. If it's a Papa John's, it's like everyone knows what that is. So, um, they have processes for employee management. Um, the profitability varies widely. This is a disadvantage. You can pay high fees. It's really important to be able to do good financial projections, again, which is covered in more detail in the fourth class of this series, the fourth workshop. So home-based businesses, this is like, you're a personal trainer, freelance writing, it could be a virtual assistant, childcare, event planning, house cleaning. It is, there's less overhead when you work out of your house. There could be tax advantages, but there's a pretty big asterisk there, that you have to kind of be careful exactly what you're deducting. So in that case, you really might want to engage the help of an accountant, a tax accountant. Disadvantages, there can really be, zoning issues with where you live. If you live in a HOA, homeowners association, there can be, restrictions. So that's an important thing to check out. The planning department at a city should be able to help with that. Uh, yeah. Okay, so online businesses. Um, there are I work with a client now who is creating a business, essentially doing what's called drop shipping, where she has identified a market. This is people with autism, and she's sourcing products that she thinks will fit their needs. And kind of what she has to do is to create an online store or to sell through Amazon. An important aspect to this is a narrow vertical. You're competing with people online, so it's important to have a specific niche market to focus on. Um, and one of the challenges here is marketing costs, how you're going to reach customers. Um, uh, but of course, in other types of businesses, you also have marketing costs. There's, also less liability than, say, if you operated a manufacturing facility or a restaurant. Uh, and that's a bit dependent on employees that you might have, versus if it's just you. So we'll just go through the last remaining business type, and if anyone has questions at this juncture, please type them into chat, and we'll pause to take a moment for questions before moving on. So the last is nonprofit, and these are nonprofits have particular requirements. You have to have a board of 3 people, a board of directors of 3 people at least. You can pay salaries, but there are regulations on uh, the amount of money that you're taking home. The government wants to be sure that nonprofits aren't used for, personal enrichment. Um, and um, yeah, this nonprofits have to serve a public benefit. So um, there are nonprofit experts in the SCORE network. That is one of the criteria that you can filter for. And I don't know that anyone has so far shared that they want to work on a nonprofit in this in the chat so far. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so we'll keep moving, and then if questions arise, oh, Philip, we got two questions. So Lauren says, um, are there tools we can use to assess the market with our business idea for viability? Yes, excellent question. We're going to get into that uh, in a moment, but that will be covered also in more depth in the second um, course in this series, which focuses on developing a marketing plan. That's also going to be covered by Jeremy at the library, who really has some excellent tools available to study a market. It won't provide assessing viability is we use other methods to do that, which we'll talk about in a moment. Please follow up uh, later if your questions aren't answered or if you want more detail. So Philip says, sounds like home-based is geared towards services, but online is more tangible goods like Etsy. Yeah, I mean, I think there's just like a a bit of a blurring here, like I think a lot of like Etsy, um, uh, or even if you do something like Amazon drop shipping, they operate out of their homes. Um, and home-based can be more like the service could be happening at your home. It's childcare. But I think it gets a little more blurred if you have like employees. Let's say you have, like an Etsy shop and you employ people. Then it's important to like be aware of city and no city regulations for you can or can't operate a business, things like that. So yeah, it's a little confusing because there's some blurring going on between categories. Okay. So components of owning a business, how many hats will you wear? If you're just starting it by yourself, it's a trick question. You'll own all these hats. So, um, I think one of the things that's important here um, is to kind of assess what we're good at and what we could use some strengthening on, or something we're a little resistant to doing. Um, so I know that when I started my company, I was very much excited about doing marketing research and doing product development. That's what I came out of. I was really not so thrilled about doing business development and sales, which are very important if you want to make money. I think I would have been better served by doing a better self-assessment and talking, having regular mentors who I could be honest and vulnerable with. Um, so, some of the people that I was going to for advice were also, it felt like, uh, these are people that I'm in business with. So there was some kind of reluctance to admit to things I wasn't good at. So what does a new business owner do? You manage people, HR. You have to figure out, if you're hiring people, you have to figure out, how do I hire people well? If something's not working out, how do I let people go effectively? legally figuring out contracts. That's very important. Accounting, like we talked about before, am I doing an excellent job of separating out my expenses, business from personal? Am I doing an excellent job of tracking how much I'm spending by area of the business so that we can um, do an effective assessment of cash flow, how we're doing, where we're going. Marketing, kind of like Lauren's question, how do I really study a market? How do I know that there are buyers in this market? Technology and facilities, sales, figuring out a sales process, production and fulfillment. If it is, making something, if it's a physical good, how do I ensure that that is being made well and delivered well to the customer? Okay, so to go a little bit more into depth on marketing, um, how do we reach potential customers? This is the big question. How do we know how many potential customers there are? How do we know how much they are willing to pay for my product? How much money should we be spending on marketing? So um, all of this is comes out of a marketing strategy, marketing plan. I need to figure out the steps um, in order uh, to follow as I develop this business. Here's how I'm going to identify my customers. Here's how I'm going to reach out to them. Here are the methods that I'm going to use. And this is what most of my work with mentees centers around. How do we also, how do we do a good job of studying competition? So we'll talk about that in a moment. Um, just in brief, branding is something we're all familiar with. So, name recognition, how do we create that? Um, what do we want to be known for? What qualities do we want people to think of when they think of our business? And how do we go about sort of creating that? What is it in our marketing that gets people to that kind of perception? Um, if you want to just like briefly as a thought experiment, look at, these logos here and think about what these brands mean to you. These are the product of decades of work um, uh, by marketing teams um, to give you some kind of impression. Um, and and some of this means that we're willing to pay a premium for these products or services. Um, yeah. So sales, what is sales? This is figuring out um, how to get a person to pay for what we are selling. Um, and that's a little different from marketing, which is, what are the needs of the buyer? Um, so many entrepreneurs are resistant to selling. It can be a little uncomfortable to ask people for money or you know, to engage with us in a transaction. But when we own a business, we have no choice um, but to be a salesperson. And this is, at least in starting up a business, this is a tough role to outsource because it is really about interfacing with our customers and hearing feedback and understanding what will work and what won't work. I worked for a CEO one time, I won't name names, who was very resistant to getting critical feedback from customers. And what that meant was that they didn't have a great understanding of the shortcomings of the product offering. So even if you have, a salesperson, that's really a role to figure out. I should really eat my own. I should eat my own dog food on that, because I was resistant to that. Okay, so just this is a little bit of reflection. Do we have the skills? Is there any anything that we need to strengthen? Um, there are so many courses online. I think often we just need to know what to look for. There are so many great courses offered through free offerings like Coursera. The public library system has partnerships with um, Coursera and other e-learning tools. Jeremy might be able to touch on that later. Um, and like the young people say, they go to YouTube University. So there are a lot of really excellent offerings available. There's also, as we all know, there's less high quality information offered on, websites, YouTube videos. So just to be a skeptical consumer, to try to access a couple of resources to make sure that you're getting the right information. So if we just take a moment for people who have thought about what business service um, they want to offer, um, take a moment and if you would be willing, share in the chat who needs the service or product that you're offering, um, why do they need it, and how could it be different or better than the competition. Um, so it'd be great if you just took a moment to share. Okay, let's keep moving, and then as people share, we can explore them a little bit together. Um, Other critical factors. This it is important to consider what kind of market you'll be selling your product to, your competition. We're going to go a little bit more in depth on that. Um, and the distribution and merchandising of your product. And this is like, if this is a physical service or a physical product or service, again, to come back to like the landscaping, or let's say, you make beauty products. How does that get produced? What is the supply chain? How do you find a good supplier? And how do you get those products, labeled, and how do you deliver those out to customers? So, this really depends on the type of product or service. Um, you know, price is as we all know, it's very relevant. Um, a lot of established businesses do something called willingness to pay exercises where they will price things at different pricing levels to understand what people would be willing to pay. Pricing affects perception. Higher price has higher expectations. A lower price could mean that there's some kind of value that's lost. So yeah, so it's very important to understand in a competitive environment how competitors are pricing, and to understand, what your market in marketing they say your market positioning is. So how a person perceives what you're offering, that's part of how you are positioned in a market, where you are selling this product, whether that's a supermarket or through Etsy, if it's the retail store, the part of town that you're in, all of this plays into price. So competitors, critical. Um, we really want to do a good job at studying our competition. We want to understand how customers are looking to address their needs, solve their problems, how they're finding those businesses, and how those businesses are structured, how they are doing marketing, how they're staffed, what the quality or the price of their goods are. So this is actually an area that I think, in my experience, I'd be curious to talk more to other SCORE mentors about this, but I think with my SCORE mentees, it's what people kind of give a little short shrift to. I think on the one hand, it's assuming that they're offering a very different product or different service. Um, and I think it's also that it can seem challenging to really study a competitor. Um, so, one of the best ways to start a business is to have already been working in that kind of business. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. You understand it from the inside. But when you're not on the inside, you know, how do you provide yourself um, and eventually investors with enough evidence that you really understand what competitors are doing. So just take a second for any questions. Have any questions arisen? Okay. Okay, so figuring out the type of business. There are, this is a list of business structures. Sole proprietorship, this is how most businesses start. The owner is a sole manager, decision maker, and the income tax is based on the owner's individual return. So a lot of time, freelancers, consultants like myself, small businesses with low risk will opt to do this. It's the simplest, and there's very little cost involved. The downside is that you're open to liability. If you're trying to raise capital, that can be more difficult to raise. Let's talk about partnership. That's when you are sharing management responsibilities between co-owners. It may be used when one partner is an investor. So profits are shared between partners. If you're not putting kind of 50-50, equity or time or energy, then you have to sort of be careful to structure your business accordingly so that you're not doing 80% of the work but only getting 50% of profit. LLCs, this is the second most common that I see of mentees. This offers some liability protection for owners, and it's very simple to create. There are state fees, and if there are partners involved, you need to have a partner agreement. There is, I'm not a lawyer, but you know, I don't think an LLC really provides a shield of liability. Um, there are a lot of cases of people that do real estate investment, and you know, if let's say a renter um, sues your LLC, I think that that it is possible uh, for the litigant to come after your personal assets. I could be wrong, but I just would not assume that that an LLC takes away a major amount of liability. Um, C corps are used to if you want to raise capital. So if you're thinking about taking on investors, that's when I would probably engage the services of a lawyer. It's been asked of me, can I do I need a lawyer to form an LLC? Um, I think off the record, there's less involved there with an LLC. I know that a number of mentees use online services like Rocket Lawyer. Um, there's a really fantastic I'll just say, if your score mentor doesn't have specialty in this area, um, a lot of score mentors do. But if they don't, there are a lot of fantastic resources on Reddit. There is a community on Reddit called the Entrepreneurship subreddit, and this is a very common question. So you'll find a lot of discussions about how to form what structure to use. Don't let that be the gospel, though. If you really have questions, talk to people who have experience doing it. I would just caution on spending a lot of money on a lawyer if it's not critical. Yeah, again, sole proprietorship or partnership is the route that people go often when they're starting a business. I'm sorry, sole proprietorship or LLC. Those are the two most common that I see. So business licenses, you must apply for a business license within your county. The fee is typically low, a couple $100. And the application process will vary based on the type of business. Again, zoning is relevant for home-based businesses in certain categories, such as those that sell used goods, alcohol licensing. That's a whole nother subject if you want to do something like food services. If you hire a staff, you need to comply with labor laws. And these detail, how many hours employees can work, frequency of breaks, other factors. And as an employer, even if you're the only person you pay as yourself, you have to follow IRS and state guidelines for withholding taxes and Social Security, and then set up accounts with your bank to deposit those funds. So there's a lot more information on the SCORE website. You could also read information at the Department of Labor There's a lot of online resources around this. So insurance consideration, you know, this is really relevant to the type of business that you are setting up. If you get property insurance, often that contains fire. In some locales it doesn't. You have to get specialized fire insurance, earthquake insurance. The property insurance is about the loss to buildings, building contents, inventory. Liability insurance, this is bodily injury, property damage to others, caused by accidents on your property. For example, if a customer slips and falls at your business. Motor vehicle, most of us, hopefully all of us that drive have this, a bodily injury, property damage resulting, in this case, the business use of our motor vehicles. For example, if you have an employee who drives a company car to make deliveries, you need to have extra coverage. Umbrella liability, that's an additional layer of liability insurance. So this is common. If you're a landlord, you might get liability insurance. It's usually not very expensive. So in the event that you get sued, this is an extra reserve of funds to tap into. Workers' comp, these are covers injuries, death, loss of wages to workers on the job, including the owner. If this coverage is not provided, injured employees may sue the owner for damages, including lost wages. Health insurance. If you rely on your current job to receive health insurance, you'll need to investigate health insurance options. Healthcare.gov can be a resource to see if that is relevant for your own health insurance needs. Life insurance, if your family relies on your income, then life insurance can take care of them if something happens. Business interruption covers the loss of income you might have if a disaster requires your facility to be rebuilt. So, yeah. Okay. So let's get into the business plan. And just to kind of level set, I think we're going to try to cover this in about 15 minutes. Then we're going to hear from Jeremy at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library about excellent market research tools. And we'll try to take questions. Okay, why have a business plan? What is it good for? It's not so useful to have a long business plan if you're not going to use it for a purpose. It is critical if you are seeking funding. It is at least if you're not going to, if you need to, if you're not seeking funding, you might not need a full business plan, but you need to have a clear strategy and it needs to be written down. Why? It's because we get bogged down with all kinds of things when we're starting a business, and we need a way to sort of guide decision making, to set goals, and to measure progress. If you're working with other people, if this is a co-founder or if these are employees or customers or suppliers, a business plan it creates alignment. It allows everyone to understand the mission and the strategy. I just want to check in, has anyone in this group created a business plan? If you want to write in the chat. Okay. I can share as you okay. Philip says not yet. No. Okay, so um, you know, it's an important exercise, and um, uh, even if you don't intend to seek funding. So it is something that all of us who are thinking about creating a business should do. What are essential parts of a business plan? Um, in overview, an executive summary that includes, what is the mission of our business? What does our business do? Who is our target market? And what is our unique value proposition? What are we offering that is unique and important? What sets us apart? The um, second aspect is a market and strategy section. So this covers market research, um, competition. So like we were talking about before, we want to assess what the strengths and weaknesses are of our competition, um, and how we plan to attract and retain customers, having a marketing and a sales strategy. Okay, so Lauren asks, is there a good template or guide? Excellent question. There is a resource I'll link to, but you can Google for a business plan template. You could use ChatGPT. You can search the entrepreneurship community on Reddit, and score.org has, I think it's called the business planning worksheet, that I will place a link to. And that's a really good kind of one page at a glance. So excellent. So Eric has mentioned that. And if Eric, you have a chance to get that link while we're going, that'd be great. But you don't, if that's too much, that's okay. Um, the last aspect here is the financial plan. So this summarizes our revenue model, how we are going to generate money. This talks about costs, where we think we will spend money. And we want to be able to create a financial projection, month one, month two, month three, so that we can track that over time against how we're doing. And we want to, you know, see if what we're forecasting as our growth actually turns out to be the case. If not, then we can start to investigate why not. So it's really tempting to kind of launch into a business without creating a any of these models. There is, it does take a little time to figure out um, how to make these, but it's not super involved. So that these take place in the fourth class in this series. And it's very important, so that we hold ourselves accountable. If we start out our business with a certain a budget, that by the time we get to month three, month four, we are where we expect to be. So every business owner uh, needs a banker, or in this era, maybe we would say a bank. Um, you know, um, a banker is more about obtaining loans and credit. Um, it's it's generally a little bit more difficult if we're starting a business up from scratch, and if we don't have a history of revenue to obtain loans. But if we have collateral, that becomes more possible. Um, there are free business banking accounts. There's a website called Novo, and you should be able to find kind of low cost business banking accounts. I wouldn't I wouldn't drop a lot of money on fees if we're just getting started. A lawyer will help to set up the business entity, um, would be available for any lawsuits that would arise. Again, are there less expensive ways to sort of register your business? Yes. Um, if it is like if it's a process like registering a business, you should be able to ask lawyers, what is this fixed fee service cost? Because they know exactly how long that will take them to do. So they should be able to give you that cost upfront. Um, an accountant or an accounting software, if you're up to the task of using an accounting software, that's good. Accountants shouldn't be a major expense. Yeah. Insurance agents will shop around for the best coverage and pricing for policies. And what I've done in the past is contact a couple different insurance agents just to be able to compare prices between them. So again, you're starting up a business, unless you have like a ton of capital, it's good to be scrupulous with the money you have, not to spend money on things you don't need to. A business mentor, you can get one free at Score. If you don't think it's a good match, you can ask to be matched with a different mentor. That's totally fine. Um, you know, Score mentors aren't meant to be one-time engagements. They're meant to stay with you as long as your entrepreneurship journey lasts. Again, there's a mentor in our chapter who has been with his mentee for years and years and has seen that mentee through different stages of the business. There's a lot of fantastic mentors available. Okay. So we want to be able to do a self-assessment to figure out where we are. And this is what this assessment looks like. I'm going to also paste into the chat the link to this on the SCORE website. But essentially, you can write down at home for each one of these questions on a scale of 1 to 10, disagree to agree, where you are right now. Why is this good to do? It's good just to understand where we are, where we could use some strengthening. Again, this is an overview course. This course won't give a how-to precisely of how to start a business. This is meant more to orient us to the different aspects of becoming an entrepreneur. So take a look at this, and I'm going to paste the link to this in the chat. Okay, it's in the chat, and you can take a look at this, at your leisure. So we are nearing the end. Um, Homework. What are you trying to achieve? And why do you want to become a small business entrepreneur? I think these are good questions that we should be able to answer for ourselves. Maybe it is that you see a problem that is not being addressed or not being addressed well. That was the case for me in creating a startup. Maybe it's that you think you can solve an existing problem better. If it's a restaurant, you want to make, better food, that can be done if, whatever it is, but it's good to get some clarity on that. And describe either the products or services that you want to provide, or how you're going to go about figuring that out. So if you need to figure it out, that's a great place to start. I think that's an even better place to start. You want to do some marketing research, and come up with a plan for how you are going to study what product or service to offer. And you want to explain what is important to your business, any values that you have. Right. So after this workshop, you can access the other courses in this series. Like we touched on before, we want to test the feasibility of our business ideas. So we need to learn how to do that. Um, Jeremy will show a marketing research tool, but there are a number of tools that we need to figure out if an idea is feasible. To be able to do something called market sizing, figure out how many potential people are in a market, figure out, like we talked about before, willingness to pay. What price will people pay for a good? Um, so yeah. Um, so, the whole kind of theory of this course, this 5-part course, is to take this course and then to decide if this is, the right time to start a business. So the philosophy is, to defer the decision about whether to start a business until doing these workshops, and then to work with a score mentor at any point in this process to assess, if it is a good idea to start a business now or not. These are the these are the remaining 4 courses. Okay, so this is the link. I will also paste this into the chat. Score.org, start your business. All the recordings for these other 4 courses are located here. So I'll just type it in. Okay. And I don't know that we are offering a survey now, but I believe there may be one that will be emailed to you. So it would definitely be great to get your feedback if this was useful. Now I think we want to take about 5 minutes to answer questions, and then to turn it over to our friend Jeremy. So any questions?
Well, while people are typing, Eric or Elliot, my computer restarted in the middle of the program, so I lost
Oh,
my
okay.
co-host privileges. So if one of you could promote me to co-host again while people
Yeah,
are...
definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. So Johanna says, I don't see the links on the chat. Um, okay, okay, I don't see the links. Okay, let's figure out what's going on here. Okay, so I had hosts and panelists um, selected. So now I selected everyone. So that was a self-assessment tool. And then here are the next courses. Yeah, thank you so much, Shanita and Johanna. I apologize. But there wasn't, okay. Philip says, is it an issue if I cannot start now, but I can begin preparing for the very near future? No, no, it's not an issue. You can engage a mentor whenever you want. I think it is much better to um, start planning as much in advance as you can, because that'll give you an idea of the things that we talked about tonight, which is like capitalization. How much money do we need to start our business? What is the state of our personal finances? How much does our credit matter? So kind of the more time we have um, to do some planning and preparation, the better. Um, yeah, there are all kinds of benefits to starting in advance. So definitely get started. Um, you bet. Any other questions? Okay, so Jeremy is going to share some really excellent tools that outside of the context of the public library, which has a subscription, these are expensive tools if we were to access them on our own. So let's take advantage of these things. And then Jeremy has to leave before 7:30. So Jeremy, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you both, Eric and Elliot. I'm so glad to be here today. I am sharing my contact information in the chat, so feel free to, if you have questions after the presentation ends, email me or give me a phone call. First thing I want to note is I am at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I know we have people from all over the country on this presentation today. If you are in North Carolina, you will have access to about half the resources that I'm going to share today, a little more than half. If you're not in North Carolina, you'll have to check with your local library system. So just be aware of that. But for just about all of these resources, you want to start at the library's homepage, which is cmlibrary.org. And for those of you in other cities in North Carolina, you would start at your library's homepage, and you will need your library card number for most of these. For just about a minute, I want to mention we do have nonprofit resources. We're working on a LibGuide. We've got 2 tabs done. So these bring together a collection of a large number of resources here on grant seeking and then on proposal writing. And this is available on our webpage. And then we also have access to the foundation directory from Candid, which allows you to search for what foundations are giving money in which areas and for which topics. But this is specific to finding grants for nonprofits, not for businesses. But so if any of you are interested in seeking or thinking about starting a nonprofit, we have resources for that too. Okay, on to the business resources. To get to just about any of our resources, you would start again at the library's homepage, and then you can go to Research and Learn right here. And I'll apologize in advance. I cannot see the chat window, so if any of you have questions, I'll circle back around in a few minutes. And if those of you that with microphone access, feel free to just break in with questions. But again, start off at cmlibrary.org and then go to Research and Learn. And from here, you can either search for a specific resource or just go to the resource A to Z list, which is what I always just tend to do. And this gives you a list of the resources we have access to. Most of these resources are provided by an organization called NC Live, which services all public libraries in the state, as well as all public college and university libraries and any private college or university that wants to buy in to get access to a huge number of resources. Though a few of these we do subscribe to on our own. So the first one I want to talk about is called Gale eBooks. So back on this Research and Learn page, it's just in the G's. And if you're not on the library's network, it will prompt you for your library card when you go to log into this. And people were asking about business plan templates. I don't really have a template, but I do have kind of the next closest thing, which if you go inside Gale eBooks, don't be scared off by how dated some of the titles look. If you scroll down to the business section, we have the Business Plan Handbook series right here. And if I click on this, you can see this one is updated. There's already 2 volumes for 2025. But this provides a collection of successful business plans that have been used by small businesses that you can then look at and use as a model for constructing your own. And throughout the series, they have hundreds of business types. So whatever type of business you're trying to start, very likely you'll be able to find a plan in one of these volumes. We'll just go into the most recent one, just for example. Somebody had mentioned a t-shirt print on design. So here's a custom t-shirt and apparel business plan. So I can click on that and it will give me the exact business plans. There's the executive summary. They used an industry analysis. And so you can use this to then figure out what kind of statistics you need to gather, what information you need, and use it as a way to structure your own plan. From here, you can download it as a PDF, you can print it or email it, and this is available from home, and this one is one that is available statewide with your local library card. Again, those of you out of state, check with your local library system and see if they have the Business Plan Handbook series. I'm going to jump back to Zoom for a moment and see if there are any questions. Not yet. Okay, but again, if you do have questions, please drop them in chat or unmute if you're able to. Just real fast, we also have access to the Gale Directory Library. So this allows you to find professional associations at both the national and international and regional, state, and local level. They have the market share reporter, and they have the National Directory of Nonprofit Associations. We also have access to a resource called Gale Legal Forms. This one is specific to, it's one that the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library subscribes to on our own, so I can't guarantee that it'll be available statewide. And they have different state versions for every state, so your local library system may subscribe to their own version of it. But they have a huge selection of legal forms on a variety of topics. Quick caveat here, again, as was mentioned earlier, we are not lawyers, so we can't really tell you how to fill them out, but we can definitely show you how to get to this resource. And if you know the form you need, we can show you how to find the specific form so long as you know the one you need. And then on a local level, here at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, we have remote access to the full webpage for the Charlotte Business Journal. So if you want to know what's going on in businesses locally, you can get access to it through our webpage. And again, that's back on the resources page, and this one will be in the C's under Charlotte Business Journal. And with your library card, it is available remotely from home. Training was mentioned earlier. We do have access to LinkedIn Learning. If you're not familiar with LinkedIn Learning, they provide a huge variety of high quality video-based classes. They will give you a certificate at the end. You don't get your name on the certificate, but you get a certificate. But look, browsing the business category here, they have classes on leadership and management. Here's customer service. They have learning paths, which are collections of classes. And then here they have more topics down here. So if you're wanting to learn more about, HR, or you're wanting to learn more about how to do sales, they have classes on that. And the classes can range from a couple of hours to sometimes as many as 20 hours. But they're all broken up into very short sections, so it makes it easier to watch. Like here's a class on asking great sales questions. The class itself is about an hour. But if I go into it and look at it, I'll pause the video here. The introduction is a minute, just about 2 minutes. And the next section is just over 3, and so on. And it will remember which ones you've watched. in which you haven't, so that way you don't have to spend the entire hour or 4 hours or 20 hours, glued to your screen. You can take breaks and pick up pretty much right where you left off. Any questions? Ooh, 5 new messages. Okay. Okay, no questions so far, but again, questions are very welcome. And then we also have research databases. We have several of these. We have one on specific to entrepreneurship. We have subject-specific databases. I pulled up this one, ABI Inform, because it's the kind of the business database. But you can do searches in this, like for instance, my standard example is coffee shops. So if I wanted to start a coffee shop, well, what does the industry look like right now? So I can try a simple search like this. Go away. There we go. And I will get articles, in this case over 100,000, related to what's going on in coffee shops. Some of these are local, like this one is just out of Fort Mill. Some of these are international. I can refine my search as I need to. I can go down and drill down and look at scholarly works or books, newspapers. There'll be trade journals. And almost all of these articles will be available full text. If I want to limit it down to just what is full text, what I can actually read in the database, I can click the full text limiter there, and it will reload the search. And now I'm limited to just what I can read in the database, and I don't have to go hunting for it in a print publication somewhere. They will have the PDF of most of these articles. And this also contains a lot more than just industry trends. This database also has things like SWOT analyses. Anyone familiar with what a SWOT analysis is? If you're not, it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you can find those in here, but it is a huge, huge collection. It includes things like The Economist and a lot of other, important publications that you can get access to for free. And again, this one is available statewide, and many library systems across the country subscribe to ProQuest, which is the data aggregator behind ABI Inform. So odds are you'll likely have access to either this one or the competitor from EBSCOhost through your local system. Questions? I'm not seeing anything. But again, drop them if you have any. I wanted to take a quick second to share Social Explorer. We have access to one called Simply Analytics here at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. Simply Analytics is a honestly amazing tool to go through and analyze markets, demographics, employment, you name it. They have hundreds of thousands of data points. But this is one that we at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library subscribe to on our own. So it's not available statewide. Social Explorer is available statewide and has some of the same information, particularly about demographics, but it is not nearly as fully featured as Simply Analytics. So I want to point out that it exists, and if you're in North Carolina but not in Mecklenburg County, you might want to check this one out. But if you're in Mecklenburg County, you'll probably want to use Simply Analytics. Simply Analytics gives you the option of creating a free account with them if you access it through our A to Z resource list here. I would recommend you do create the free account because that will save your work, so you don't have to reconstruct it every time. But to give you an example of the power of this database, this is one that I created again with my example of what if I want to found a coffee shop. So this is showing me areas of the county, and I'll try to zoom out, but it sometimes gets a little I just logged in. Sometimes gets a little strange when I'm screen sharing through Zoom. But this is showing me areas of the county where people have bought, according to the last study they have, which in this case was 2001, but where people bought coffee on the go. And the green areas, the brighter the green, the more people bought coffee. So this is a way where I can start making guesses about, or making conjectures rather, about where I should locate my coffee shop. The areas in red, people aren't buying coffee. Now, that might be because they're not interested in coffee, or it might be because there's no coffee shops located in those areas. That's where the orange dots come in. In addition to putting in data points, I can also put in business counts. So the orange dots show me where businesses, in this case, it was baked goods, so where bakeries are located. But I can put in a number of different types of businesses. And within this, I can look at it as a map. The map is limited in that it will only track one data variable or one business count at a time. But I have other things I can look at, like comparison tables, or I can compare Charlotte or Mecklenburg County or whatever geographic location I want to another geographic location, and I can track multiple variables at once. I can also look at it as a ranking, and in this case, it's defaulting to zip codes, but if I so choose, I can take it down to census tracts or even smaller block groups or cities. Now, the interface for Simply Analytics can be a bit overwhelming at first, so I'll do a quick demonstration. If I go to New Project here, it will ask me for a location, and so I can put in whatever geography I so choose. I'll use City of Charlotte. And then it will suggest data variables for me, and I can use some of these if I want, and just create it without variables and add my own as I so choose. It will give me a choice of different types of reports I can look at. There are 12 of them here, just depending on what kind of data you're looking at and how you want to view it. I'll just stick with a map. And then I can start putting in either my data points or my business counts. And I can search for a data point here, or I can browse. So if I want to know what's going on with income in the city of Charlotte, where are pockets of wealth located, I can click on income. And I mentioned this database has hundreds of thousands of data points. They have 11,000 just on income. Fortunately for me, median household income is right here at the top. So I can just click that one to load it. But if I want to, I can browse through some of these, and I can use the filter box up here to search for them. Once I click on a data point, I get the check mark. And once I've selected all the data points I want, I can close the map out. And once I'm done editing, I can hit done here. And the yellow outline shows me the city of Charlotte's borders. And then it gives me the map. In this case, it is broken down by zip codes, which is nice, but I tend to like a more granular view because there's a wide variety within some zip codes. So I can take it down to, again, either census tracts or smaller block groups. And now I get a more detailed picture of what's going on with wealth in the county. And I can do this with just about any variable I want. So they have things like where are people spending money on specific products. You'd find that in consumer behavior. If any of you are thinking about getting into construction, in housing, they have data like what is the average age of housing in a particular area. So you can use this for creating advertising circulars to target areas where the housing is aging and more likely to need repair. They have data for health variables. Again, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of data points. And once you find the data points you want, you can customize the map as you so choose. Like in my previous example, the areas that I wanted to focus on, I've made those green. just by clicking on the color here, and then I click the color I want. Then within this, you can also export this. So it makes a great way to generate a table or a report or a graphic to illustrate some point in your business plan to really drive your information home. Questions so far? Okay. Then the final resource I want to share is Simply Analytics and data, and the next one, Data Axle, tie as my favorite resource. I don't know that I could tell you which one I like better. But Data Axle also allows you to do analysis on businesses, more than businesses, honestly. They go through and index every phone book and city directory in the country. They also cold call a lot of businesses and um, send out a lot of surveys. But they have a couple of different databases you can look at in here. They have a standard white pages. So this one is wonderful if you want to know who is living in an area. You can go in here and go to search. And if we go to advanced, you've got a bunch of different geography choices. So I'm going to do a map-based search because that's fun and quick and easy to look at. But with the map-based search, it lets me define, I can jump to a zip code. And then I can either define a radius or I can draw a shape. So this lets me define exactly where I want to look at. And it will then give me a list. Let me just do a quick half-mile radius there. It will give me a list of who lives in that area. I can then take that list and view results here. I can check mark it at the top and go through up to 10 different pages, so 250 results at a time, and download these into an Excel spreadsheet that I can then put into something like a mail merge for a marketing campaign. And again, I can pick exactly what geography I want, either by doing a map-based search or by telling it a specific zip code or a radius or a neighborhood. And then maybe 6 months later, I've done my marketing campaign. Maybe I want to catch people who are new to the area. They have a U.S. new movers homeowners database that contains people that have moved within the past year. So I could do it once using the standard white pages and then maybe do it again using the new movers to just catch the new people to the area. But perhaps more importantly, I can also do some of this with businesses. So if I go into the U.S. business database, again, they have the quick search here, which is great if I meet somebody at a networking event and I want to look them up. But most of the time, you'll be going to advanced search. And there's a lot of different ways you can use this. You can use this to find potential suppliers. You can use this to find potential competitors. And if you're a business that markets to other businesses, you can use this to find potential customers. Most of the time when I'm coming in here, I'm going to the keyword SIC or NAICS search here. And I didn't mention this in Simply Analytics, but Simply Analytics also lets you search by keyword or by SIC or NAICS. If you're not familiar with those, the SIC codes are Standard Industrial Classification, and NAICS codes are North American Industrial Classification Systems. NAICS are newer, they're more updated, but SIC is still very widely used. But they allow you to, if I check mark this, put in a search term in this case, and it will find, in this case, because SIC is checked, SIC codes that relate to my search term, like coffee and tea. Not really going to be competing with manufacturers or wholesalers, so I might leave that off. But I can scroll through and check mark as many of these as I want. I might look at bakers again, retail, because oftentimes bakeries sell coffee, so they would be competition. And I can put other search terms in here as needed. until I have a search that I'm satisfied with. This will hold quite a large number of SIC or NAICS codes. Then once I've done that, I can select a geography. In this case, I'll just do county. And filter it down to North Carolina and Mecklenburg. Come on. There we go. So if I update that, there's 417 businesses that match my SIC codes. Now, of course, if I were doing this for real, I'd be putting a lot more codes in here, doing a lot more, thinking a lot more about potential competition. But for purposes of just showing this today, I'll go to view results. And so it gives me a list of businesses that operate under those particular SIC codes. Right from here, I can tell if a business is part of a corporate chain or not. The upward pointing arrow lets me go up and see their owner. So like here, Auntie Anne's Pretzels. They're a business that operates multiple locations. Whereas like this one, Archive, is just down the road from me. It's just a small business, single owner. And I can go into any of these and get more information about them. So this helps with that research on, helping to define what your goals and your expectations should be. I'm going to try to get to a Duncan real fast. Here we go. So I can click on, one of these and get information eventually. There we go. Information about the business. So I can see what the SAC codes and NAICS codes they operate under are. So if I'm struggling to find, codes to help define my competition or whatever I happen to be looking for, this can help me find those. They can give me a business profile. This one can be good to help define like your elevator speech. If anyone's not familiar with that term, it's that you want to have a quick pitch available if you meet somebody important, and you have a brief time to define your business idea to them. It will tell me things like the number of employees they have, the sales volume they do, their hours. Depending on the business, that may even tell me about their management. But this part in particular is important because it shows you, what you should be thinking about as an established business. If Duncan, I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay. If Duncan is the bar that you're trying to measure yourself against, these are what you should be aiming for. We'll show you graphs and charts, tell you about their business history. Lots of information in here. The bigger the business, the more information they tend to have. That's one of the reasons I wanted to find a Duncan in here, since I know they'll usually have a fairly fleshed out profile. Whereas a small business, like for instance the Archive I mentioned, may not have a huge profile in here since they are a smaller company. Questions on any of this? Okay. And for those of you in North Carolina, Data Axle is available statewide. One story I like to share about this resource is a few years ago, it was not part of NC Live and was not available statewide. And I literally had people coming in from all over the state to use this resource on our computers, because there's just so much information here, so much you can do with it. Again, this research or this search is just look at competitors. It will also give you business counts. So if you want to know, about how many you're competing with, you can do that. And inside the view results, you could actually look at a heat map as well, similar to the business count dots in Simply Analytics. So it allows you to, again, help judge where there's a gap in services. So if you find that there's a gap somewhere and people seem to have money in that area, that might be a good area for you to target, either for marketing or for setting up your actual location. And that is about the end of my presentation. So I'll stop screen sharing there. And again, if you have any questions or need any help with the resources, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my phone number and email in here again. But there, let's see, it looks like there's one. Okay, there's one question. It looks like it's going to be directed to you, Elliot and Eric, from Jose.
Yeah, I think Jose, I think you can yeah, I mean, I think you could send uh the video confirmation of the recording. I can also send you my SCORE email address. And I'm happy to send them a message, or however you want to do it. So I'll send you my SCORE email address.
Any questions, comments, thoughts on the library resources? All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of it. And I hope you're able to make use of the power of your library card.
Yeah, I just want
Thank
to
you,
say,
Jeremy.
yeah, Jeremy, amazing. Like these are incredible resources, and there's a lot of capability. It can be intimidating, but you have an amazing resource with Jeremy at the library. So people should definitely feel free to reach out. And Jeremy, thanks so much for just being here. I know you're staying late after work, so really appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you all, and you all have a wonderful evening.
Eric, is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for attending this. I hope this motivates you to think deeply about your business and to reach out to get a mentor from SCORE. I have 23 clients, and I enjoy every one of them. And it's just a pleasure to help people who want to start their own business. So.
Super. Thanks so much, everyone.
All right. Shall we call it a night then, Elliot?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I think
I hit
everybody's
this.
dropping off.
Okay.
All right.